From Tampa Bay's #1 news station, this is the Fox 13 4 o'clock news.
Well, you know, this is something that no one really likes to think about, but even if you're young and healthy, it really is important to start planning your estate now. If you put it off, it could end up costing your loved ones, and no one wants that. So we bring in today John Troncoso. He is a certified financial planner. John, thanks for giving us some of your time. You've made other appearances on our other newscasts here. Always do a good job. Estate planning is such an important topic, but again, it's one that sometimes it's, tempting to push it off. It's more than preparing a will. What else goes into it?
Right. So I think first off, many people have heard what estate planning is, and they maybe are a little bit confused of what actually is in fact. In simple terms, it's just a plan for the latter stages of life. What happens to you, what happens to your loved ones, and what happens to your stuff when you're gone. In addition to the will, which you mentioned, a durable power of attorney is very important. A living will and a healthcare proxy are all the bare minimums of a good estate plan.
So who needs to do some estate planning? At what age should we start to kind of turn our gears toward that?
Well, I think everybody above the age of 18 needs some sort of estate plan.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, that it's just for the rich and just for the famous. And I think that in reality, it's for everyone. 60% of Americans 18 and over don't have a formalized estate plan, and they're really leaving themselves and their loved ones susceptible to later issues.
Well, we're all about hacking these days and finding ways to do these things on our own. Maybe people file their own taxes. Is estate planning something you can do on your own?
The short answer is yes, but there's some really major caveats there. The American Bar Association has made some really tremendous concerns to the kind of do-it-yourselfers in this space, and they even compare it to a heart surgeon performing on himself.
Whoa.
Some very small issues can really have great consequences later. And given the stakes, I would definitely recommend finding a competent estate planning attorney, finding a certified financial planner that can work in tandem to really building a comprehensive plan for you. And the cost is generally just a few $100s to several thousand, depending on the complexity of the case.
Right, yeah. I'm assuming for a lot of people it's not going to be that complex.
Right.
And you have that peace of mind of knowing that when something happens to you, everything's going to go where you want it to go. So how do you start? How do you start this process?
Sure. So my first step would be to find that estate planning attorney, either a trusted advisor, a friend, or there's actually a great search engine called Martindale that allows you to kind of find their ratings and find their rankings. Otherwise, I think get organized is my other step. Find all those documents that are in the drawers or in the closets, in the shoe boxes, and then put them together. And then finally list out your assets and your debt. Maybe the final consideration is start considering what an ideal plan would look like for you.
Okay, we've had some high-profile celebrity deaths in recent years where it's this person that's accumulated massive wealth over a long career and there's no will, there's no estate. What happens in Florida if someone passes away and there is no will?
Right, so if somebody were to pass away without a will, your estate is considered intestate, which simply means that there was no will in place. And Florida laws are going to actually be the ones that are addressing kind of what happens to you, what happens to your stuff, and what happens to your loved ones. Think minor children or pets. The estate process can go through probate, which is very costly and very time-consuming, and it's a public proceeding. That's why you can reference those celebrity cases where there wasn't that will in place. Additionally, there is some emotional burden. I find that it's certainly not the time to have loved ones thinking about, oh, what should we do or what would they have wanted?
Yeah, no, emotions are raw and you may not be thinking perfectly clearly. What are some common mistakes people make when planning their estate?
Sure, the numbers don't lie with this. The #1 mistake is not having a plan at all. Secondly, we find that a lot of clients don't have adequate life insurance and they kind of leave their loved ones in a little bit of a financial bind. Additionally, when a beneficiary on a 401k or life insurance doesn't match a will, the beneficiary designation is actually going to supersede the will. And then finally, just not communicating with your loved ones early and often of kind of what you have and where you want it to go and what you want to happen.
Well, thank you for helping us get our minds in that area and headed toward that, because it's something we all need to think about. I need to think about as well. And as much as we love the state of Florida, we don't want the state doing our planning for us after it's too late. So something to think about if you guys haven't done it yet. Find that estate planner and start taking care of it. Linda?